two men posing as police officers got into the museum in Boston and stole more than $500 million worth of art.
Imagine waking up tomorrow to a breaking news alert. Fine art worth $500 million has disappeared overnight. No suspects, no clues, no alarms. So, who did it? And where, right now, as you watch this, are those paintings? To understand why this heist was so devastating, you first need to understand what the Gardner Museum is, because it isn't just a museum, it's a love story. Isabella Stewart Gardner was one of the most eccentric, electrifying figures of the Gilded Age. A Boston socialite was once told by Boston society to behave and responded by becoming the most culturally significant woman in New England.
Remain much as she left them a century ago, except for 13 empty spaces.
She spent decades traveling the world, acquiring masterpieces with an eye that rivaled the great dealers of her era: Rembrandts, Vermeers, Raphaels, Degas. And then, in 1903, she built an entire Venetian palazzo in the middle of Boston, the Gardner Museum, and arranged every object exactly as she wanted it. In her will, she decreed that nothing could ever be moved, added, or sold. The collection was to remain frozen in time, exactly as she left it. It was, in other words, a sealed vault of irreplaceable beauty, which made it an irresistible target to the criminal mime. March 17th, 1990, St. Patrick's Day. Boston is drunk and distracted, the perfect cover. At 1:24 in the morning, a security guard named Rick Abath buzzes open the side entrance of the museum. Standing outside are two men dressed as Boston police officers, claiming to be responding to a disturbance call. Abath, breaking protocol, lets them in. He should not have done that, as the next words he heard were, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery." The two guards on duty are handcuffed, wrapped in duct tape, and secured to pipes in the basement. Then the men went to work. For the next 81 minutes, they moved through the museum's galleries with unsettling calm, cutting canvases from their frames, snapping frames entirely, rifling through drawers. They were unhurried, deliberate, yet oddly sloppy in places, leaving behind works potentially worth more than what they took. At 2:45 a.m., they walked out. They were never seen again. Now, let's talk about exactly what was taken, because this is where the true scale of the loss becomes visceral. 13 works. Total estimated value over $500 million. Possibly the most valuable collection of stolen art in existence. Here's some of what vanished that night. The Concert by Johannes Vermeer, one of only 34 known Vermeers in the world, and arguably the single most valuable stolen painting on Earth. It has not been seen since 1990. A Lady and Gentleman in Black by Rembrandt, a stunning double portrait carved from its frame. Self-Portrait by Rembrandt, a small etching but historically priceless. 3 works by Edgar Degas, including 2 sketches from his La Sortie de Paysage series. The thieves took these from a cabinet drawer, which suggests they either knew exactly what they were looking for or stumbled upon them and recognized their worth. A final Rembrandt etching, the Presentation of Jesus in the Temple. A Napoleonic finial, a gilded bronze eagle from the top of a French military flag, an odd choice, almost insultingly mundane next to the Vermeers. The detail that makes every art historian weep is they removed the Rembrandt paintings by cutting the canvases from their stretchers using what appears to have been a crude blade. Works that survived 300 years, destroyed at the edges in under a minute.
Although it's considered by many people the art crime of the century, and in terms of value and in terms of sort of impact it is, if you look at the details of it, it was also a botched crime.
The FBI descended on the Gardner within hours, and what they found was almost nothing. No fingerprints, no DNA, no witnesses beyond the 2 traumatized guards. The security footage, when reviewed, showed that in the weeks before the heist, an unknown car had circled the museum multiple times, but the license plates led nowhere. Over the decades, the case has become one of law enforcement's most maddening obsessions. More than a dozen serious suspects have emerged and faded. Organized crime figures in Boston and Philadelphia have been linked to the theft, including associates of the notorious Patriarca crime family. In 2013, the FBI made a dramatic announcement. They believed they knew the identities of the thieves and that the paintings had been transported to Connecticut and Philadelphia in the years after the heist. But no arrests were made. No art was recovered. The Gardner Museum itself offered a $10 million reward, the largest private reward for stolen art in history.
Stewart Gardner Museum right now doubling its reward up to $10 million.
It remains unclaimed. And in the museum today, the empty frames still hang on the walls, not as a haunting oversight, but by design, as placeholders, as a declaration that those frames are waiting, that the art belongs there, that the story isn't over. So who did it? 35 years on, there are three dominant theories. Theory 1, organized crime, the most widely supported. The heist bears hallmarks of a mob-connected operation, the calm professionalism, the inside knowledge, the fact that the art seemingly went underground immediately into criminal networks where it could be used as collateral. Art stolen by organized crime rarely surfaces quickly. It moves like currency in the dark. Theory 2, the inside job. Rick Abath, the guard who buzzed the thieves in, has never been charged with anything, but his behavior that night was bizarre. He propped open a side door earlier in the evening. He failed to follow protocol. He was, investigators noted, involved in Boston's counterculture scene at the time. He has always maintained his innocence, and no evidence has ever placed him as a conspirator. But the question lingers. Theory 3, international trafficking. Some investigators believe the paintings left the United States entirely, possibly to Europe, possibly to the Middle East, where they entered private collections so sealed from public view that even Interpol can't reach them. A Vermeer hanging in a billionaire's private gallery, seen by no one. It's a thought that should make you furious. Here is the thing about stolen art that separates it from every other kind of theft. When a diamond is stolen, it can be recut. When money is taken, it can be reprinted. But when a Vermeer is stolen, one of 34 Vermeers on Earth, a piece of human consciousness goes with it. These aren't objects, they are moments. They are the specific, irretrievable act of a human being at a canvas in the 17th century, capturing light in a way no one has captured it before or since. And somewhere, right now, the concert is sitting in darkness. It has been in darkness for 35 years. The most valuable stolen painting in the world, unseen, unloved, waiting. The Gardner Museum's empty frames are not just symbols of loss. They are an open wound in the history of art. And until those paintings come home, that wound stays open. The Gardner Museum's tip line is still active. The reward still stands at $10 million. The thieves walked out of that museum in the early hours of March 18th, 1990, and the art world has never been the same. The greatest heist ever committed. The greatest cold case in the history of crime. And a story with no ending. Yet, if this kind of deep dive into the dark, seductive world of art crime is what you're here for, subscribe, because we're only getting started.